The following study is regarding attitudes about gay teachers in the United States. Information was analyzed using the 2016 General Social Survey dataset. The results were used to determine the demographic groups that disapprove of gay people being teachers in the United States. A majority of Americans believe that gay people should be allowed to teach. However, recent actions by right-wing media and lawmakers are contrary to this fact. Just recently, Florida passed the Don't Say Gay bill, which was supported by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and prohibits teachers from talking about LGBT issues and experiences in the classroom. The Family Research Council is a right-wing anti-gay group that has been backing anti-gay and anti-transgender bills nationwide. The Supreme Court of the United States is set to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges, the case that legalized same-sex marriage across the country. Right-wing bills have targeted transgender youth and adults in several states, claiming that transgender youth are too young to make decisions about their bodies. These bills are also aimed at removing safe spaces for transgender youth and adults in schools, other public institutions, and public places. Othering theory states that a dominant group or groups will often marginalize a non-dominant group or groups in some manner. The process of othering labels those who are perceived to be different than oneself. A group that sees itself as having the most power in a society or that believes that it has civic belonging stigmatizes and holds at a distance those who they deem to be different. Othering is often used to describe racial and ethnic minorities. Here it is used to describe a sexual minority. Gay people in the United States account for approximately 5.6% of the overall population, but experience hate crimes at a rate of nearly 1 in 5 nationwide. So the research question here is, with support for gay teachers high in the United States, do demographic factors such as age, sex, race, and socioeconomic status affect the ways in which individuals support or oppose these individuals' teaching? And is this affected by how much television one watches or news one reads? Hypothesis: older white males of lower socioeconomic status will be more opposed to gay people teaching than other demographic groups. Data for this analysis was obtained from the 2016 General Social Survey. Variables were selected from the Exersave file. 1,500 respondents took part in this survey across the United States, answering a variety of questions from demographics to persistent opinions on several social and criminological issues. So the dependent variable in this study is col homo. Should a gay person be allowed to teach? This is a dichotomous nominal variable, and it was recoded for gays not allowed to teach, or no teach. The independent variables are as follows: sex, nominal, recoded as male; race, nominal, recoded as white; age, scale, recoded as plus 65; class, ordinal, recoded as low work. Control variables: TV hours, how often a respondent watches television; scale, recoded for watches over 4 hours of TV, or 4 hours; news, how often the respondent reads the newspaper; ordinal, recoded for reads daily, as reads. The dependent variable in this case, coded as col homo, is a dichotomous nominal variable. For this reason, it is important to use a multiple binary logistic regression analysis to determine the correlation and significance of the independent and control variables. First, it's important to get into some univariate statistics. Our independent variable, col homo, is, should a gay person be allowed to teach? As you can see by the pie chart here, 89.95% of Americans support gay people being allowed to teach. Only 10.05% oppose. As we look at the statistics for this variable, the mode is 4, which represents allowed. The first independent variable, age, is what is the respondent's age. The survey picks up starting at age 18 and continues upward from there. As you can see in the histogram, it seems to follow a fairly normal curve. As far as statistics go, the mean age is 49.16 years old. The median is 50 years old, and the mode is 57. The standard deviation is pretty wide, at 17.476. The second independent variable for this study is sex, or what is the respondent's sex. As you can see by the pie chart here, of GSS respondents, 54.6% were female and 45.4% were male. When it comes to statistics, the mode was 2, which represents female. The third independent variable is race, or what is the respondent's race. The pie chart here shows us that 81.55% of respondents were white and 18.45% of respondents were black. When we look at our statistics, the mode is 1, which represents white. The fourth independent variable was class, or what is the respondent's economic class. As you can see on the bar chart below here, lower class was at 10%, working class at 46.2%, middle class at 40.8%, and upper class at 3.0%. When we look at the statistics here, it's important to notice the median and the mode, both which have the same value. The mode is 2, which represents working class. The first control variable is TV hours, or how many hours of television does the respondent watch per day. In the histogram below here, we can see that the range is from 0 to 24 hours. And when we look at statistics off to the side here, we can see that the mean, the median, and the mode are all pretty similar. The mean here is 2.98 hours per day, but the standard deviation is 2.783 hours. So this can range quite a bit, actually. Finally, the second control variable was news, or how often does the respondent read the newspaper. Here, every day was at 22.5%. A few times a week was at 13.8%. Once a week was at 11%. Less than once a week was at 16.6%. And never was at 36.1%. Now here in the statistics, the mode is 5, which represents never, but the median is 4, which represents less than once a week. With this particular variable, we're going to focus on the median, which is 4. When it comes to bivariate statistics, a correlation matrix was necessary. Here, each of the variables is crossed with each of the other variables to determine its Pearson's R and its significance. No teach, as you can see, is our anti-gay variable, and plus 65 is those aged over 65. This had a Pearson's R of 0.115, an R2 of 0.013, and a percentage of 1.32%. It was considered significant at the 0.01 level. Another significant relationship was the no teach plus 4 hours, or those who watch over 4 hours of television a day. Here the Pearson's R was 0.171, the R squared was 0.029, the percent was 2.92, and it was significant at the 0.01 level. For the second half of the correlation matrix, there are some pretty interesting relationships. First, we have those who are white and over 65 years of age. Here we have a Pearson's R of 0.130, an R squared of 0.017, a percent of 1.69, and a significance at the 0.01 level. White people and those who are lower in working class has a negative Pearson's R of 0.136, an R squared of 0.018, a percent of 1.85, and is significant at the 0.01 level. Also, white people who watch over 4 hours of television has a negative correlation of 0.128 with an R squared of 0.016, a percent of 1.64, and a significance at the 0.01 level. Then we have some folks that are plus 65. And plus 65 plus low working class is a negative correlation with a Pearson's R of 0.193, an R squared of 0.037, a percent of 3.72, and significance at the 0.01 level. Then there are those over 65 who watch over 4 hours of television a day. This is a Pearson's R of 0.238, an R squared of 0.057, a percent of 5.66, and a significance at the 0.01 level. Those who are over 65 who read the newspaper every day have a Pearson's R of 0.254, an R squared of 0.065, a percent of 6.45%, and a significance at the 0.01 level. Finally, those who are lower or working class and read the newspaper every day have a negative Pearson's R of 0.195, an R squared of 0.038, a percent of 3.80, and a significance at the 0.01 level. As far as bivariate statistics are concerned, several relationships in the correlation matrix were significant at the 0.01 level. Of these, no teach, the dummy variable for not allowing gay people to teach, was most strongly correlated with plus 65, those over 65 years of age, and 4 hours, those who watch 4 or more hours of television a day. White, the variable for white people, was correlated strongly with plus 65, low work, which is lower and working class, and 4 hours, suggesting this may be an additional useful variable in looking at attitudes toward gay teachers. Plus 65, the variable for those aged over 65, was additionally correlated strongly with low work, 4 hours, and reads. Finally, low work, the variable for lower and working class respondents, was also strongly correlated with reads. When it comes to multivariate statistics, there was a necessity to conduct a multiple binary logistic regression regarding this data. Here you can see in the model summary that the Nagel-Kirk R-squared is a score of 0.136, which indicates that the model is improved by 13.6%. There are also a couple of interesting variable relationships for variables in the equation. Plus 65, or those over 65 years old, is significant with an odds ratio of 4.673 minus 1, or 3.673. Also, 4 hours, which is watching 4 or more hours of television a day, is significant with an odds ratio of 2.124 minus 1, or 1.124. For a breakdown of these statistics, as can be observed in multivariate and bivariate analysis regarding those who do not want to allow gay people to teach, or no teach, it is consistently the plus 65, or people who are over 65 years of age, and 4 hours, people who watch more than 4 hours of television per day, categories that show a significant relationship to the dependent variable. Also notable is the lower and working class or low work category with an odds ratio of 1.665 minus 1, or 0.665. Most of the variables measured had little to no relationship with the dependent variable directly, although some may have had an indirect influence. Overall, the relationship between race, class, gender, and how often one reads the newspaper did not display a significant relationship to whether respondents would disallow gay people to teach. The two variables that had the most impact on the analysis were plus 65, those over 65 years of age, and 4 hours, those who watched 4 or more hours of television a day. There was, however, a significant relationship between those over 65 and multiple other variables, such as race, gender, social class, and whether one reads the newspaper every day. This suggests that these variables could have a secondary effect. It appears that the strongest relationship between not allowing gay people to teach lies with those over the age of 65, both male and female, and regardless of race or social class, possibly linking age to watching more television and being more exposed to news media and political advertisements, contributing to othering theory. Anti-gay news media could be having an impact on those over 65 years old. This study does have some limitations, as it was limited to the categories and responses obtained from the 2016 General Social Survey in the United States. The data obtained from the 1,500 respondents was split, and some questions being asked of all respondents and other questions being asked of one group or the other, resulting in data collection that has lower numbers than the overall 1,500 respondents in many of the categories. The data was additionally split between two files, resulting in some variables only being available in one dataset and other variables being available in the other dataset. This resulted in a limited choice of variables for this study. It would have been interesting to explore the correlations between the data described and variables that explore religious practice and political affiliation. There is no variable for how often a person consumes news media, rather a question about television and a question about newspaper reading frequency. It would be interesting in the future to explore consumption of news media when it comes to public opinion.